Okay, I've already done a couple of these. I think I've got a fairly good system going. This is a Spectrum, but what it is, it's a Doodlebug. And this is the Santa Fe. And it's new. Okay. These are really cool. They're a little noisy. We're going to put it on the track and test it in DC, make sure it's working fine before we get started. And then as soon as we've done that, I'm going to install Digitrax SDH166D. Now that's replacing the Digitrax SDH164D. And I buy all my Digitrax stuff from Yankee Dabbler. And for the last few months, I've installed several of these things, either in the RDCs or in the Doodlebugs. And I don't know what Digitrax was doing, but all of a sudden they were just really not working well at all. They were failing even after being programmed. They would seem to lose their program or come in with different sounds. The lights would either be dim or on instead of on and off, and I don't know what was going on. But they've come out with this new decoder, which I can't see any difference, and the price is still comparable. But they're both 8-bit, but if you want a 16-bit, they have what they call an SDXH166D. It's a 16-bit. The retail on the 166D SDH is $55, and the retail on the SDXH166D is $75. And what the difference is, again, it's a 16-bit. It has 4 voices. It has a different speaker. Instead of the 28mm round, it has a 16 by 28 by 9 8-ohm, the same as that. Other than that, I really didn't see any differences. It does have theoretically an improved scramble speed, the BEMF, and a Series 6 decoder features. So I don't know, and the light controls I guess have more options to them too. So the question is it really worth another $20? It's really getting close to buying soundtracks, which I think is going to work against them. But we'll see. I haven't bought one of those yet or installed one. I probably will, just to see if I can really see a difference in them to justify the cost difference. But let me get started. We'll go ahead and get this on the track so we can run it real quick in DC and see how it works. Okay, as usual, I'm using my MRC Tech 6 sound controller. 2.0. I really like this thing, and then I found out they have a walk-around controller you can put on these things too, which is really, really cool. I have my notes here, but I think to have lost them. But I think it's an MRC 1203 Tech 6 handheld. They run, I found them on eBay for as little as $52.76 plus $4.99 shipping. And I found the Tech 6, which can range anywhere from $175 to Power Hobby has them for $79.95 plus $9.95 shipping, and it's really worth it. You get to do your DC and DCC with it. I find it a really useful tool. If you were to buy both of them, it would run about $147.65. Or you can buy the MRC 1201, which is the Tech 6 sound controller, which has the walk around, and it's a 6 amp, and it runs $179.95 at Manic Hobbies. I haven't bought one. I have the Prodigy Wireless DCC, and when I do my DCC alone, that's what I'll use. But for this type of purpose, I really like this system. So I'm going to put it in reverse and run it back. There's a little bit of sound to them, and I've tried to take them apart and re-lubricate, but they still have that sound. So it works fine. So I'm going to show you how to open it, and then we'll move on. Okay, the secret to these is you've got to open the sides up. I use my thumbnails and then pull it out, but what you have to realize is you got the outer skin that you can see here. And then if you look inside there, you can see the plastic, which is the windows, and that's what hooks on. So if you're just taking this out, and sometimes on the older ones you'll see it separate. But I take my thumbnails and separate it here on both ends and then try and get some kind of a grip out here. And then that lets it finally break loose. It took me a while to get good at this, if anybody ever gets good at it. but you can see how they hook in. So, and then I'll show you some things I'm going to have to do inside of here to get this prepared. These little slots up here are for the cow catcher, which is separate. It's in a package. I'll install it later. I'm going to remove this board. I'll take it off intact basically. I'll leave this plastic bar in here, and I'll show you why. This light will come out with the board. I'm not going to use it. I'll put some people in here, and that's about all I have to do, but I'll show you how I install the lights in the system I use. You can do it a lot of different ways, I'm sure, but this is really tight in here. There's not much room for anything. The decoder just barely fits. It fits right in this area right here once this comes out. And it has to nest up in this area where there's not enough room for it. And you don't want to cut any of this apart. You don't have to, and you don't have to. And then back in here, I'll install a light strip. And on this one, because I have a coach, I'm going to have wires coming off the end of the light strip, which I'll show you, that will come down here and protrude out the back of this thing so it can plug into a coach. And I'll have lights in the coach as well. It doesn't seem to make much sense to have all this in the motor car, the Doodlebug, and then have the coach not have lights in it with people too. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. Okay, Digitrax puts out track power to the lights with the Tech 6. That's 14.6 volts, 12 or better. So I install a 620 ohm resistor for these 1.5 volt systems. There'll be 2 of them, so with just 1 strip in here, it's pretty bright. With the 2 strips, I'm thinking, because the other one will have 10 lights on it, it would be probably not quite as bright, which is not a bad thing. You want the coach to look like it's lit, but you don't want to look like it's taking movie cameras or films inside of it. So I will put probably a clear insulation, but that will fit, that small of a resistor will fit underneath that right there, that one right here. So this will glue right down in there. So we'll see how it looks. I've got the light strip in there. You can see the 620 resistor down there. It's on the negative wire. Then you have the positive common on the other side. And back here, I've hooked up the wires to the back end, which is nothing more than just putting solder on these little points like you see right there with the plus and minuses, and fed them back, and I'll drill holes in the back to get that done. Meantime, I've desoldered the lead wires from the trucks, taking the wires off of the motor mounts and taking 1 screw out, that guy right there, that goes right there. Then up here under the light you just have a point, so this should just list right off. It should. Oh, I got 1 more wire. Oh no, I don't. I just have to pull it out. There we go. So now I've got a brand new board that someone else might be able to use if they have one of these and they're having troubles with their board. And I'll put this on eBay and let them do what they need. If nothing else, it has a light. So that's it for right now. I've got to go to physical therapy, and then when I come back, we'll see if we can get some more done. Okay, I think you can see that I've got the capacitor tucked down in there. I've got foam holding it down, and I've glued it in with the RCZ56. I've also taken the leads from the power pickups from the rear trucks and the front trucks, and I've joined them up here. You can see the black one on the far side and the red one on the near side. Those clothespins are holding it in place while this RCZ56 holds. That'll keep those wires suspended over the flywheel, so I don't have to worry about it. I've also shortened the leads to the capacitor, so I don't have to worry about them. And I've taken the speaker off the plug-in that comes with the Digitrax because I can't use it. And I've put new wires in that I'll hook up to probably a 3/4 inch speaker that I'll mount up here on the front. I got to make a small diaphragm or enclosure for it. So I've also wired up, as you can see, the front light, which is one of these rascals right here. It's a yellow glow white LEDs. I think you can see them down there. They're real nice. And then you use a 470 ohm resistor because you're getting a little over 12 volts to it, and it's a 3 to 4 volt system. I cut off the headlight. It used to extend back about another half an inch or so, and I've installed that bulb inside of this shrink, which then I put the another 470 on it because that's what it's going to take. Then this shrink will just slide. I think I'm kind of in the way of letting you see anything, but it slides right over the light like that. And then I'll use some RZZ56 to cover this area right here and hold that in place. Then it's real easy to remove if you have to replace the light, but you probably never will. These things last forever. I've pigtailed the blue wire, so it's picking up the front light and it's picking up the interior lights. And of course that's all this thing gets. So this ought to work out pretty good. I've got the wire back here that I'll have to drill the holes in the back end. I probably won't do that until I have the rest of the stuff basically available. So it's kind of ready to go, and of course you can see those lights would be above this plastic piece right here, and it'll glow into the compartment. And I'll put probably a dozen or so people inside of there to make it look real. So that's kind of it for now. The motor leads are hooked up. If I have them backwards, they're easy enough to resolder. Desolder then resolder again to get it correct, but I think they're right. I think orange goes on the right side and black goes on the left. I've also removed, one thing that Digitrax, actually most people would recommend, is that you remove the wires you're not going to use. Just get them out of there. The same thing up here. Of course you only remove one up here because you left the green wire that's hooked into the interior lights that'll work off of F1 and have to be reprogrammed per the Digitrax instructions to separate it from the bell, and that's easy enough to do. And maybe I'll get my nerve up to do that this time and show you. So we'll see. So that's kind of it for now, and we'll get back to this in a little bit. Okay, well all this RZZ56 cures up. I'm going to do a little bit of work on the coach. As you can see, the coach has never been opened. I do these labels when I buy these things, keep track of all the products. So, but this is the Santa Fe. So I'm going to open this guy up, and I'm going to have two hands to do it, obviously. We'll okay, so here she is, and I'll get her out of the box. Got a little bit of work to do with her. Open her up. Get a light bar put in the top of that thing and drop the wires down to the front. Looks like we have the extra things here. I think we can do better than that, so we'll take a look at it. So, take her out. See just what we got here. I think we can put some better couplers, some 158s from KD, and we'll put some lights in it, set up for the plugs, and then as soon as I open it up, these are pretty cool. They've got lights in them, so they've got a pickup on the front truck and one on the rear truck, so they pick up the left track and the right track, and that's fed in through these little points right down there on both sides. And they have kind of a neat feature that basically has springs. These are attached, so I've already pulled them out. So I need for them. Then I had to go into the Dremel, and I think you can see where I've machined off the nubs, I guess you want to call them, whatever, for the screws, because I can't use them. And I'll be able to get this light strip put in with the wires facing the front end. So I'll install those. They're self-adhesive, so that should be okay. And then drop the wires down in the front, probably drill the holes for them, and then see if I can find my receptacles for them. Then I'll basically be done with this, except putting it back together again and putting the KD couplers on it. And I'll probably put in, I don't know, probably at least a dozen, maybe 18 people in this thing to make it look like it's occupied. And that'll be it. Okay, you can see a little progress has been made. I've got so everything's soldered in. I've hooked up the decoder. The clothespin is holding the wires from the capacitor so they don't pop back in and are seen. So you can see if it's looking through there, you're not going to see them. especially when the window's back by the seat. So that should work out fine. So I'm going to stick it on the track, and we'll see how it's going to work. I can't hook up the wire connectors back here yet because I can't find my mini micro bayonet type receivers. I just ordered some more, and they'll probably be here within a few days, and I'll get back to this after that. But we'll just see if this thing runs and see how it sounds with the shell just loosely attached or beside it. So that's just all I'm going to do for now. Okay, she's working. That's always good news. The light comes on. I think you can see it. I'll get the oil out of the way. It's at idle. To get the lights on in the interior, until you reprogram F1, you have to use the bell. But as you can see, they come on and they're quite bright. I could probably put a heavier resistor in there, but I'm not going to. That's what I've been using, and it seems to really make it look good inside. Once the interior's put in, it kind of has a dark background to it, so it kind of helps. It goes forward and forward, and it goes backwards and reverse. So that'll be it for now. I'm just going to kind of let this thing dry, and I've got to do the same thing with the coach, just basically run as far as I can go until I get the bayonet connectors for it. I'll put one on each side of the door. They're very, very small, and I'll use a really flexible wire to hook between them, so I don't have to have any, I don't want them to influence the cars when they're trying to turn, which could happen sometimes. So we'll silence that and turn out the lights. Got to reprogram the horn too, because now when you hit the horn, you get the bell. So that's enough for now. And we'll come back and look at it when I get it done. Okay, back to the Santa Fe Doodlebug. Been a few days. I ordered these mini micro connectors, and I gotta tell you, mini is not the word. These things are tiny. So as you can see, I've already got the red one soldered on, and what I've done is I put a little solder in the inside the male connector. I go ahead and tin the wires coming out, and I'm using a heat shrink. Now they provide you with a heat shrink that I could use, but I need the black and the red, so I'm using some of my own. I'll keep those pieces because they're good for use, obviously. And then all I'm going to do now is slide the heat shrink up over the end a little bit, and then I'll use a soldering iron to shrink it down. And then it's time to go to the other end, and I'll show you this when I get done, because the wires are just about invisible inside. You can't get rid of them all the way, unfortunately, because you got to be able to put the top back on the shell, which I've done. So but look at this. Okay, looking through, you can see you can't see the wires, but if they get pushed back in, they'll come out a little bit on an angle. But if you loop them like they would on the actual car, it should be okay. And these wires are not that stiff that they're going to cause a problem. If one on each side, it kind of neutralizes the effect of the other one. So making turns and such, I think to be flexible, especially with 3 wheels on this car and especially on the Doodlebug, it's not going to be an issue with trying to derail anything. We'll find out. And if so, you can just push the wire in so it goes into a straight shot, and it can pull back and forth with no friction whatsoever. So, but you can see I've just drilled really small holes, and now I have to do the same thing with the Doodlebug. So this thing is actually done, and we'll test it after a while and see how it works. Okay, I think you can see the females have been drilled into the back. I've got the another male plug in there, and I did that because I'm letting some epoxy set. I've epoxied those in, and when I solder the wires onto the inside, this is the epoxy I use, by the way, and it just took a drop of resin and whatever the other stuff's called. Anyway, it's going to take a while to cure, and I want it to cure completely because I'm going to solder it then. But to protect it, I'm going to probably either hook on the clothespins to the male side over here and let that dissipate the heat, or I'll use a wet cotton ball on them that'll really dissipate the heat out. I don't want to overheat the epoxy or melt the plastic, so I have to be very, very careful when I do that, but it shouldn't be a big problem. I'll go ahead and tin the wire and then put some solder paste on the female on the inside, and then I should just have to touch it just for a second to get it to adhere. That solder paste is pretty good. If not, then I'll try some flux and regular solder, because I know that works really well. So anyway, well, that's going to have to cure now for a while, so I get to go do something else. Okay, so there's the male and the female connector, and I've taken the male connectors and I drilled holes in the back of the Doodlebug and put those in. Used epoxy to hold them in, and then soldered the red and black wires on. And now it's time to put it on the track and plug in the back one and see if any of this works. Okay, now it's plugged in, so we'll take a look. So we get to make some noise here. I don't have the coupler hooked up on the passenger car yet. That's supposed to be the horn. Ding-a-ling. So we'll turn on the bell and see if we get lights. We got lights all the way around. Looks like the back end is a lot brighter than the front end, but it might be because the seats are lighter colored more than anything else. So, but it does have lights. Okay, so that's her. Turn off that bell. Okay, with the speaker up front where it was, right up in here, it seemed to be interfering when we put it together, and I think even though I cut this down, moving this thing forward, it was still too shallow. It was interfering with the speaker. And when it did that, it was pushing down this area up here, and it was binding with the ability for this wheels to turn as they do. So, and I've also painted my driver so I can see him. Move the decoder back, so it'll fit right down in this area, which gives it more space, and the speaker should go right down in this area. I put a piece of Scotch tape. I usually use my Kapton, but I put a piece of Scotch tape to make sure this is insulated so it can't touch anything accidentally. And I installed a 120 ohm resistor off this one going to the back coach to see if I can kind of diminish that light a little bit. It was just a little bit too bright, so we'll see how that works out. So it's time to put it back together and see if it's going to function properly this time without any interference. So I learn as I go, and I like to share those in case you have one of these and want to do it yourself. It's a little bit of complicated installation, but it's not that big a deal. So let's see how it runs. Okay, adding the 120 ohm helped, I think. It subdued that light. Okay, let's kind of see how the final thing looks. I haven't put on the cow catcher, but it's here and it'll be packed in with it. They don't put them on, I don't either. I think it fits in the packaging, but it's just not worth taking a chance with it. I don't think it's all that fragile, but just to make sure you know that it's there. Couplers are on. They're the Katie's. The couplers on the coach hang off that thing. They hang a little low, I think. I haven't figured out just how to get them to come up, but let's see if we can get this thing to make some noise here. It's in reverse right now. And again, I'm using F1, the green lead, to get my lights, which means it has to be reprogrammed, and you can find that in the Digitrax manual. So I hit 1 on the MRC Tech 6, and I get my lights. You can see that the lights in the coach are subdued a little bit. That kind of helped out a little bit, I think. Of course, the lights in the front are probably brighter, but they got to go through that piece of plastic which diffuses it quite a bit, so it really narrows it down. So she's running pretty smooth. Put her in forward. Turn on her headlight. Bring her up. So she's running nice. So I need to box it up, and then we'll see how she works out. Put her back in reverse. Just run it back one more time, just for the heck of it. Makes a nice set, I think. Back and forward. So, she's pretty much done. Again, it's the Santa Fe. And 131. With the war bonnet look, which I really like. And again, thanks for watching. Hope this fits your layout plan if you're a Santa Fe fan. Back in the 30s and 40s.